The morning sky over Seoul turned silver. Not the silver of clouds or rain, but something else. Something alive. The massive ship appeared slowly, like a mountain rising from the ocean. It made no sound. It cast no shadow. It simply existed where nothing had existed before. Yuna stood at the window of the United Earth Council building. She watched the ship hover above the city. Behind her, the room filled with voices. Ministers shouted into phones. Generals demanded answers. Scientists scrambled for data. But Yuna stayed quiet. She had learned long ago that silence often revealed more. The ship had been there for 6 hours now. No weapons. No threats. Just waiting. "They want to talk," said General Taiho, stepping beside her. He was an old soldier with gray hair and tired eyes. He had seen 3 wars and buried too many friends. They sent a message. One word: peace. Yuna turned to face him. One word is either very simple or very complicated. Which do you think it is? She looked back at the ship. Nothing that comes from the stars is simple. The meeting happened in the Grand Hall. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Concord. Their ambassador was named Velith. He stood 7 feet tall with skin that looked like glass filled with moving light. He had 4 arms and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around his head. When he spoke, his voice came from everywhere at once. "We come with great news for your species," Velith announced. His arms spread wide in what seemed like a gesture of welcome. "The Galactic Concord has watched your world for many centuries. We have seen your struggles, your wars, your suffering. And now, we offer you the greatest gift any civilization can receive." The human delegates leaned forward. Presidents and prime ministers from every nation sat together for the first time in history. Fear and hope mixed on their faces. "We offer you protection," Velith continued. "Full membership in the Concord's defensive alliance. Our fleets will guard your skies. Our shields will surround your world. No enemy will ever threaten Earth again." The room exploded with whispers. Minister Hana grabbed the arm of the delegate beside her. "This is everything we ever dreamed of," she said. "Safety, real safety." Admiral Dongwu nodded slowly. "No more fear of invasion. No more wondering what's out there." But Yuna did not smile. She sat at the head of the human delegation, her hands folded on the table. She watched Velith carefully. She noticed how his 6 eyes moved, how they looked at the humans like a farmer looks at sheep. Velith continued his speech. He showed them images of other worlds under Concord protection. Beautiful planets with tall cities and peaceful citizens. Species of all shapes and sizes living without war, without hunger, without fear. "This can be your future," Velith said. "All you must do is accept our offer." The delegates began talking among themselves. Most voices supported immediate acceptance. Why would anyone refuse such a gift? Free protection from the greatest power in the galaxy? But then Yuna raised her hand. The room went silent. Even Velith stopped moving. "Ambassador," Yuna said. Her voice was calm and clear. "I have a question." Velith's eyes rotated toward her. "Of course. We welcome curiosity." Yuna stood up slowly. She was not tall. She was not loud. But something about her commanded attention. "You offer us protection. You promise to guard us from threats. You say we will be safe." "Yes," Velith confirmed. "Completely safe. My question is simple." Yuna paused. The silence in the room was heavy. Protection against what? Velith did not answer immediately. His glass skin flickered with colors that the humans could not read. His 4 arms pulled closer to his body. "Against dangers," he said finally. "The galaxy is vast. Many threats exist." "What threats?" Yuna pressed. "Name them." Various hostile species. Cosmic events. The unknown. Have any of these threats attacked Earth before? No. But have they attacked any protected world in the last 1,000 years? Velith hesitated. The Concorde's protection has been very effective. That is not an answer. Una stepped closer to the alien. She was tiny compared to him, but she did not look away. You travel across the galaxy to offer free protection to a species you have never contacted before. You ask nothing in return. You make it sound urgent and important. But you will not tell us what we need protection from. The other delegates shifted uncomfortably. Minister Hana whispered, Una, what are you doing? But General Taiho smiled slightly. He understood. Velith's voice became harder. Your species is young. You do not understand the dangers that exist beyond your small world. We offer you safety out of kindness. Most species accept immediately. They are grateful. We are not most species, Una replied. I have learned that when someone offers you something for free, you should always ask what it costs. It costs nothing. Everything costs something, Ambassador. The question is whether the price is visible. The room fell into complete silence. Velith stared at Una with all 6 eyes. Something changed in his posture. The friendly diplomat was gone. In his place stood something older and colder. You are the first species to ask this question, he said quietly. Then, we are the first species paying attention. Velith looked at the other human delegates. They were watching Una now, their excitement replaced with doubt. The seeds of suspicion had been planted. We will need time to prepare a proper answer to your question, Velith said. The Concorde will return in 3 days. He turned and walked toward the exit. His guards followed. At the door, he stopped and looked back at Una. You are either very wise or very foolish, he said. I have not yet decided which. Take your time, Una answered. We have been surviving without your protection for a very long time. 3 more days will not hurt us. The aliens left. The silver ship rose into the sky and disappeared beyond the clouds. Una sat back down. Her hands were shaking, but she did not let anyone see. General Taiho placed a hand on her shoulder. You just questioned the most powerful beings we have ever met, he said. Someone had to? What if they decide we are not worth helping anymore? Una looked at the empty space where Velith had stood. Then, we will know their help was never real in the first place. Outside, the people of Seoul looked up at the sky. They did not know that one woman's question had just changed the future of their entire species. They did not know that sometimes the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a weapon or an army. It is the courage to ask why. 3 days passed. The aliens did not return. Yuna sat in her office, surrounded by papers and screens. She had not slept properly since the meeting. Every hour brought new messages from world leaders. Some praised her courage. Others called her a fool who had doomed humanity. She ignored them all. A knock came at her door. Dr. Jisoo entered without waiting for permission. She was a small woman with messy hair and glasses that were always falling down her nose. She led Earth's xenolinguistics team, the scientists who studied alien languages and behavior. I found something, Jisoo said. She dropped a tablet on Yuna's desk. Something important. Una picked up the tablet. It showed video footage from the meeting with Velith. I have watched this 100 times already. Watch it again. Look at his reaction when you ask the question. Una played the video. She saw herself asking about what the protection was against. She saw Velith hesitate. His glass skin flickered with colors. Those colors, Jisoo said, pointing at the screen. I analyzed them against every known communication pattern in our database. They are not part of his species' normal language. What do you mean? I mean, those colors appeared because he could not control them. They were involuntary, like a human blushing or sweating when they are nervous. Jisoo leaned forward. Ambassador Velith was scared, Yuna, not angry. Not confused, scared. Yuna stared at the frozen image of the alien. Scared of what? Of my question? Of what the question represents. No species has ever asked it before. You said something that broke their entire system. The door opened again. Admiral Dongwu entered, followed by General Taiho. They both looked tired and worried. We have new information, Dongwu said. He pulled up star charts on the main screen. My team has been studying every protected species in the Concord's database. There are over 200 of them. And? Yuna asked. Every single one stopped expanding within 50 years of joining the Concord. Their population stabilized. Their technology stopped improving. Their exploration programs ended. Dongwu pointed at the charts. These species are not growing. They are frozen. Taiho crossed his arms. It could be coincidence. Maybe they reached their natural limits. 200 species? All reaching their limits at exactly the same time after joining the same alliance? Dongwu shook his head. That is not coincidence. That is design. Yuna stood up and walked to the window. The sky was clear and blue. Somewhere out there, the Concorde ship was waiting, watching. You are suggesting that protection is actually a prison, she said quietly. I am suggesting that sheep do not ask why the shepherd builds fences. Dongwu replied. They just accept that the fences keep them safe. But the fences also keep them trapped. Jisoo added. Minister Hana burst into the room. Her face was red and her breathing was heavy. They are back. The Concorde ship just appeared over the Pacific Ocean. But this time, there are 2 ships. Everyone moved to the screens. The images showed the silver vessel from before, but beside it floated something much larger. It was dark and angular, covered in weapons that glowed with strange light. That is not a diplomatic ship, Taiho said grimly. That is a warship. Yuna felt her heart beating faster, but she kept her face calm. They are trying to scare us. Show us what happens to species that ask too many questions. It is working, I admitted. Half the council wants to accept their offer immediately before things get worse. And the other half? They want to know what you want to do. Yuna turned away from the screens. She looked at the people in the room. These were some of the smartest and strongest humans alive. Scientists, soldiers, leaders, and they were all looking at her. I need information, she said. Real information. Not what the Concorde wants us to know, but what they are hiding. Jisoo nodded. I can analyze their communications. Look for patterns and secrets. Do it. Yuna looked at Dongwu. Admiral, I need everything we know about the Concorde's enemies. Not their current enemies. Their past enemies. The ones they do not talk about. Dongwu frowned. That will not be easy. They control most of the information in the galaxy. Then look for gaps. Look for stories that were erased. Civilizations that disappeared. Yuna's eyes were hard. Every empire has secrets. We need to find theirs. General Taiho stepped forward. And what do we tell the Concorde? They are waiting for our answer. Tell them we are still considering their generous offer. Tell them these decisions take time for young species like ourselves. Yuna smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Play the innocent primitive. Let them think we are just slow and stupid. You want to deceive them? I want to survive. And right now, information is our only weapon. The next 2 weeks were the busiest in human history. Every scientist, every computer, every resource was focused on one goal: understanding the Concorde. Jisoo's team worked without rest. They intercepted alien transmissions and decoded ancient signals that had been floating through space for thousands of years. Slowly, a picture began to form. The Concorde was not what it seemed. It was old. Very old, and it was afraid. One night, Jizu called Yuna to her laboratory. The room was dark, except for the glow of screens. Data scrolled across every surface. "I found it," Jisu whispered. "The thing they are hiding." She pointed to a screen showing a star map. At the edge of the galaxy, there was a region marked in red. No stars were visible there. No planets. Just darkness. "What is that?" Yuna asked. "It is called the Boundary. The Concorde never talks about it. Every reference to it has been deleted from their public records." Jisu's voice trembled. "But I found fragments. Old stories. Warnings. Warnings about what?" Jisu pulled up another file. It showed creatures that looked nothing like any species Yuna had seen. They were dark and shifting, like shadows given form. "They are called the Ven. 8,000 years ago, they fought a war with the Concorde. The war lasted for centuries. Billions died. The Concorde almost lost. Almost? They won. Barely. And they locked the Ven behind that boundary." Jizu turned to face Yuna. Her face was pale. "But the boundary is failing. The walls are breaking down. The Ven are waking up." Yuna stared at the images of the shadow creatures. She understood now. She understood everything. "They do not offer protection out of kindness," she said slowly. "They offer it because they need bodies, shields, species to stand between them and the Ven when the war starts again." "We are not being invited to join an alliance," Jisu agreed. "We are being recruited to die first." Yuna closed her eyes. The weight of the truth pressed down on her shoulders. But underneath the fear, she felt something else: anger. "How long until the boundary fails?" she asked. 40 years. Maybe less. 40 years. Not long at all. But maybe long enough. Yuna opened her eyes. "Then we have 40 years to prepare. 40 years to become something they did not expect. 40 years to change everything." "How?" Yuna looked at the star map. "At the boundary. At the darkness beyond. I do not know yet. But I know one thing." She turned to Jisu. "We are not sheep. And we will not let anyone build fences around us. Outside the conch." The archives were buried deep beneath a mountain on a planet that had no name. Only numbers. Designation 7749. A forgotten world in a forgotten corner of the Concorde's territory. Minho had spent 3 months traveling to reach this place. He was a researcher, not an explorer. His hands were made for keyboards, not climbing. But when Yuna asked him to find the truth about the Ven, he did not hesitate. The official records are useless, she had told him before he left Earth. Every mention of the Ven has been erased. But information never truly disappears. It just hides. So Minho searched. He followed whispers and rumors. He bribed officials and stole access codes. He pretended to be a historian studying ancient cultural preservation, while secretly hunting for something the Concorde wanted to stay buried. And now he stood in a chamber that had not been opened in 4,000 years. The air was cold and stale. Dust covered everything. But the machines still worked. Old Concorde technology, built to last forever. Minho activated the main console and began downloading files. What he found made his blood turn cold. The Ven were not monsters. Not originally. 8,000 years ago, they were a species much like humanity. Curious, ambitious, always asking questions. They spread across the galaxy faster than any species before them. They invented technologies that seemed like magic. They challenged the Concorde's authority. And then the war began. Minho read the reports. Battle after battle. Planet after planet burned. The Concorde threw everything they had against the Ven. But the Ven adapted. They changed. They became something new with each defeat, returning stronger and stranger. The war lasted 700 years. In the end, the Concorde did not win through strength. They won through trickery. They created the boundary, a wall of energy that trapped the Ven in a small region of space. They told the galaxy that the Ven had been destroyed. They erased all records of the war. But the Ven were not destroyed. They were imprisoned. And prisons do not last forever. Minho copied everything onto a small device hidden in his shoe. He had just finished when he heard footsteps behind him. You should not be here. He turned slowly. A Concorde soldier stood in the doorway. It was tall and thin, with armor that seemed to grow from its body like a shell. I am a historian, Minho said, trying to keep his voice steady. I have authorization. No one has authorization for this place. The soldier stepped closer. What did you find? Minho's mind raced. He thought about Yuna, about Earth, about the billions of people who were counting on him without even knowing it. Nothing important, he said. Old records. Boring stuff. The soldier reached for him. Minho did not think. He grabbed a piece of broken equipment from the floor and threw it at the soldier's head. The soldier stumbled back. Minho ran. He ran through corridors he did not know. He ran past machines he could not understand. He ran until his lungs burned and his legs screamed for rest. Behind him, alarms began to sound. He found a window. Outside, his small ship waited in the landing area. Between him and the ship were 50 meters of open ground and 3 more soldiers. Minho closed his eyes. He thought about his mother back on Earth. She always said he was too curious for his own good. She was probably right. He jumped. The fall was longer than he expected. The ground was harder than he hoped. But he was alive. He scrambled to his feet and ran toward his ship. The soldiers shouted and fired. Energy beams exploded around him. One burned his shoulder. He kept running. He reached the ship. He slammed the door shut. He flew. The trip back to Earth took 2 weeks. Minho spent most of it treating his wound and studying the files he had stolen. By the time he saw Earth's blue surface through his window, he understood the full truth. The council gathered to hear his report. Yuna sat at the center, her face unreadable. Around her were generals and ministers, scientists and diplomats. Everyone who mattered. The Ven were not evil, Minho began. They were ambitious. They grew too fast. They threatened the Concorde's power. So the Concorde destroyed them. Or tried to. He showed them images from the archives. The Ven before the war. Builders, creators, dreamers. The Ven during the war. Warriors, survivors, adapters. The Ven at the end. Something between shadow and light, changed forever by centuries of suffering. The boundary is not just a prison, Minho explained. It is a slow death sentence. The Ven have been trapped for 8,000 years. No resources. No space. No hope. They have been dying slowly while the Concorde pretends they do not exist. General Taiho leaned forward. But you said the boundary is failing. Yes, the technology is breaking down. In 40 years, maybe less, it will collapse completely. And then? Minho hesitated. Then the Ven will be free. And they will be very, very angry. Admiral Dongwu stood up. This is why the Concorde wants to protect us. They are building walls of living species between themselves and the Ven. When the war starts again, we will be the first to die. Not just die, Minho corrected. We will slow them down. Give the Concorde time to prepare. We are not allies to them. We are sacrifices. The room erupted in angry voices. Ministers shouted at each other. Generals demanded action. Fear and fury filled the air like smoke. But Yuna remained silent. Finally, she raised her hand. The room went quiet. What do we know about the Ven themselves? She asked. Not their history. Not their war. What do we know about who they are now? Minho frowned. Very little. The Concord stopped studying them centuries ago. Why? I do not know. Maybe they were afraid of what they would find. Yuna stood and walked to the window. The sun was setting over the city. Golden light painted the buildings and the streets and the people walking below. We have three choices, she said without turning around. We can accept the Concord's protection and become their shield. We can refuse and hope they leave us alone. Or we can do something they never expected. What? Minister Hannah asked. Yuna turned to face them. Her eyes were calm but filled with fire. We can find out the truth about the Ven ourselves. Not what the Concord tells us. Not what the old records say. The truth. How? By asking them. The silence that followed was absolute. Everyone stared at Yuna like she had lost her mind. You want to contact the Ven? Taiho finally said. The species that almost destroyed the galaxy? I want to understand them. Everyone assumes the Ven are monsters. But 8,000 years ago, they were just another species asking questions. Just like us. Yuna looked at each person in the room. What if the Concord has been lying? What if the Ven are not the threat they want us to believe? And if they are? Dongwu asked. If they really are monsters, then at least we will know the truth. And we will face it with our eyes open, not blindly following the Concord's orders. Dr. Jizu stepped forward. It would take years to build a ship capable of reaching the boundary. We do not have that technology. Then we will build it. Yuna smiled for the first time in weeks. Humans are good at building things when we are scared. She looked out the window again. Somewhere in the sky, the Concord ships waited for humanity's answer. They expected acceptance or rejection. They expected sheep. They did not expect this. Get me our best engineers, Yuna said. We are going to build the fastest ship in the galaxy. And we are going to ask the Ven one simple question. What question? Minho asked. Yuna turned to face him. The same question I asked the Concord. The question that changes everything. She paused. Why? Ambassador Veleth returned to Earth expecting surrender. He had waited patiently for 6 months. He had let the humans study and worry and realize how small they truly were. Now, surely, they would accept the Concord's generous protection. Instead, he found Yuna waiting with a smile that made him uncomfortable. The meeting room was different this time. Human technology covered the walls. Screens displayed star maps and ship designs that should have been impossible for such a young species. And behind Yuna stood not just diplomats and generals, but scientists and engineers with oil on their hands and fire in their eyes. Ambassador, Yuna said warmly, thank you for your patience. Veleth settled into his seat. His 6 eyes scanned the room, trying to understand what had changed. You have had time to consider our offer. I trust you have made the wise decision. We have made a decision, Yuna agreed. But perhaps not the one you expected. She pressed a button. The screens behind her lit up with a single word, declined. Veleth's glass skin flickered with colors of confusion and anger. You cannot be serious. We are very serious. Yuna sat down across from him. We have studied your offer carefully. We have researched your history. And we have concluded that your protection would harm us more than help us. Harm you? We offer you safety, security, peace. You offer us a cage. Yuna's voice remained calm. Every species under your protection stops growing. Their technology freezes. Their population stagnates. They become tame. Velith leaned forward. His forearms spread wide in what might have been a threatening gesture. You are a primitive species. You have only just discovered fire by galactic standards. You have no idea what dangers exist in the universe. We know about the Ven. The room went silent. Velith froze. His skin turned pale, almost transparent. What did you say? The Ven, the species you imprisoned 8,000 years ago. The ones locked behind the boundary that is currently failing. Una tilted her head. Did you think we would not find out? Velith stood up suddenly. His guards moved closer to the door. This is classified information. How did you? We asked questions. We searched. We found answers. Una stood as well, facing him without fear. We know what your protection really means, Ambassador. You do not want allies. You want shields. Living walls to stand between you and the Ven when they break free. The Ven are monsters. Velith shouted. They nearly destroyed everything. If they escape, you want other species to die first. To slow them down. To buy you time. General Taiho stepped forward. We are not interested in being your sacrifice. Velith's voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. If you refuse our protection, you will face the Ven alone. You will be destroyed. Maybe, Una admitted. Or maybe not. She pressed another button. The screens changed to show ship designs, weapon systems, and communication arrays more advanced than anything humans should have possessed. In 6 months, we have made more technological progress than in the previous 50 years combined. When humans are scared, we work fast. When we are angry, we work faster. Una smiled. You scared us, Ambassador. And then you made us angry by lying to us. What do you want? Velith demanded. We want a real alliance. Not protection, but partnership. Equals working together against a common threat. Una handed him a data chip. Our proposal. We help you strengthen the boundary. We help you prepare for the Ven. And in return, you treat us as partners, not pets. Velith stared at the chip like it was a bomb. The Council will never accept this. No primitive species has ever then changed their minds. Una stepped closer to him. Despite being half his size, she seemed to fill the room. You have watched us for centuries. You know what we are capable of. You know that we do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not accept things just because someone tells us to. You will start a war you cannot win. We will start a conversation that is long overdue. Una turned to face the screens. In 2 months, we are launching our first interstellar ship. It will travel to the boundary. It will study the Ven, and it will try to communicate with them. Velith's 6 eyes went wide. Communicate? You want to talk to the Ven? We want to understand them. 8,000 years ago, they were just another curious species. Like us. What turned them into the monsters you describe? What do they want now? Nobody has asked them these questions. Una faced him again. We intend to ask. They will destroy you. Perhaps. But if there is even a small chance that peace is possible, we have to try. Velith shook his head slowly. You truly are insane. We are human. Una smiled. It is basically the same thing. The ambassador stared at her for a long moment. His skin cycled through colors that the humans could not read. Finally, he picked up the data chip. I will present your proposal to the council, he said quietly. But I warn you, they will reject it. They will see you as a threat, and they will respond accordingly. Let them. General Taiho replied. We have been threatened by bigger enemies than the Concord. No, Velith said. You have not. He turned and walked toward the door. At the entrance, he paused and looked back at Yuna. I have met thousands of species in my lifetime. Diplomats and warriors, scientists and kings. But I have never met anyone like you. His voice was strange, almost respectful. You truly believe you can change the galaxy with nothing but questions and stubbornness. I believe that asking questions is the most dangerous thing any species can do, Yuna replied. And stubbornness is how we stay alive long enough to find the answers. Velith nodded slowly. Then I hope, for your sake, that you find good answers. Because if you fail, there will be no second chances. He left. The silver ship rose into the sky and disappeared. The room remained silent for a long moment. Then Minister Hana spoke. What do we do now? Yuna turned to face her people. Scientists and soldiers, leaders and workers. All of them waiting for direction. Now we build, she said. We have 2 months to finish the ship. 2 months to train the crew. 2 months to prepare for the most important journey in human history. And if the Concord attacks us? Admiral Dongwu asked. They will not. Not yet. They are too curious to see what we do next. Yuna smiled grimly. We have surprised them. For the first time in 8,000 years, something unexpected is happening. They want to see how it ends. Dr. Jisoo raised her hand. Who will captain the mission? Yuna had already thought about this. There was only one choice. Someone young enough to think the impossible was possible. Someone skilled enough to survive in unknown space. Someone brave enough to face creatures from nightmares and ask them questions. Her name is Sujin, Yuna said. She is the best pilot in our fleet. And she has been waiting her whole life for something like this. 2 months later, humanity's first interstellar ship launched from Earth. It was small and fast and carried only a crew of 12. They had no weapons capable of fighting the Ven. They had no shields strong enough to stop a Concord attack. All they had were questions and courage. Captain. Sujin stood at the front of her ship as Earth grew smaller behind them. She thought about everyone she was leaving behind. Her family, her friends, her entire species. Watching from below, she thought about what Yuna had told her before launch. You are not just exploring space, Yuna had said. You are exploring the future. Every choice you make out there will decide what kind of future humanity has. No pressure. Sujin had laughed at that. But now, alone in the darkness between stars, she understood the weight of those words. She looked at the star map on her screen. The boundary was 2 weeks away. Beyond it waited the Ven, monsters or victims, enemies or potential allies. She did not know, but she was going to find out, because that is what humans do. They ask questions, even when the questions are dangerous, even when the answers might destroy them, especially then. Captain Sujin had expected darkness beyond the boundary. She had expected silence. She had expected death. What she found was something else entirely. The boundary itself was beautiful in a terrible way. A wall of energy stretching across space like a curtain made of lightning. It pulsed and shifted, cracks appearing and healing in endless patterns. On the other side, stars glowed dimly through the distortion. Approaching the main breach, her navigator announced. His name was Junho, and his hands shook slightly on the controls. The gap is wide enough for our ship. Just barely. Sujin looked at her crew. 12 people. Scientists, engineers, a doctor, and 2 soldiers who had volunteered knowing they would probably never come home. They were all watching her, waiting. Does anyone want to turn back? She asked. Nobody answered. Nobody moved. Sujin smiled. I thought so. Take us through. The ship passed through the boundary like a needle through cloth. For a moment, everything went white. Then they were on the other side. The first thing Sujin noticed was the silence. No transmissions, no signals, no noise of any kind. The stars here were old and tired, giving off barely enough light to see. Scanning for life signs, Dr. Jiwon reported from her station. She was the crew's xenobiologist, responsible for understanding whatever they found. I am detecting movement. Many ships. They are all around us. Sujin looked out the window. At first, she saw nothing. Then her eyes adjusted, and she understood. The Ven were there. Hundreds of ships, dark as shadows, surrounding them completely. They had been waiting. They knew we were coming, Junho whispered. Of course they did. Sujin stood up and walked to the center of the bridge. They have been watching the boundary for 8,000 years. They see everything. What do we do? Sujin took a deep breath. Then she activated the communication system. This is Captain Sujin of the human vessel Horizon. We come from Earth. We are not part of the Concord. We have come to talk. Silence. The Ven ships drifted closer but did not attack. We know your history, Sujin continued. We know about the war. We know about the boundary. And we know that you were once like us. A species that asked questions. A species that dreamed of the stars. Still nothing. But the ships had stopped moving. We had only one question. Sujin paused. Why? For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one of the Ven ships began to change. It unfolded like a flower, revealing something at its center. A figure made of shifting darkness, neither solid nor liquid. It spoke, and its voice was like wind through ancient trees. Why? It was not a question. It was a reflection. The first species in 8,000 years to ask why. We need to understand, Sujin said. The Concord tells us you are monsters. But monsters do not wait. They do not listen. They do not repeat questions back to those who ask them. The Ven figure drifted closer to the window. Its form shifted constantly, showing glimpses of something that might once have been a face. We were not always this, it said. Long ago, we were small, weak, curious. We explored. We learned. We grew. Its voice carried something like sadness. We grew too fast. The Concord feared us. They attacked. We defended. And the war consumed everything. But you survived. We changed. We had to. To survive the war, we became something new. Something the Concord could not predict or understand. The figure seemed to look directly at Sujin. They called us monsters because they could not call us victims. Jiwon leaned forward. What do you want now? After 8,000 years, what are you hoping for? The Ven was silent for a moment. Then it made a sound that might have been laughter or might have been crying. We want to stop. Stop what? Everything. The war. The waiting. The endless existence without purpose. The figure's form flickered. We did not lose the war. We chose to end it. We let the Concord build the boundary because we were tired. So tired of fighting, of killing, of becoming worse with every battle. Sujin felt tears forming in her eyes. She had expected many things, but not this. Not grief. Why did you not tell them? Why not ask for peace? We tried. The Ven's voice became hard. They did not want peace. They wanted victory. Total destruction. So we let them think they won. We retreated behind the boundary and waited. Waited for what? For someone to ask why. The words hung in the air like stars. Sujin understood now. She understood everything. You were waiting for someone like us. We were waiting for anyone who would listen, who would question, who would see us as something other than monsters. The Ven drifted back slightly. In 8,000 years, you are the first. The Concord sends only soldiers and weapons. They never send questions. Sujin made a decision. It was crazy. It was dangerous. It was exactly what Yuna would have done. "Come with us," she said. "Come back through the boundary. Talk to humanity. Talk to the galaxy. Tell them what you just told me." The Ven ship stirred. For a moment, Sujin feared she had made a terrible mistake. "You would take us to your world? Knowing what we are? Knowing what we have done? I would take you anywhere if it means ending 8,000 years of lies and fear." Sujin stepped closer to the window. "You asked for peace once, and nobody listened. We are listening now." The Ven figure was still for a long time. Then it spoke. "Your species is very strange, Sujin of Earth. We know. It is our best quality." The transmission reached Earth 6 hours later. Yuna listened to it alone in her office. When it ended, she sat in silence for a long time. Then she smiled. Within a decade, the boundary came down. Not through war, but through negotiation. The Ven emerged slowly, cautiously, like prisoners blinking in the sunlight after years of darkness. They were strange and frightening, but they were not monsters. They were survivors. Just like humanity. The Concord fractured. Some species demanded independence. Others sought humanity's guidance. The old order that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years crumbled like old paper. And at the center of it all stood one simple truth. The most dangerous thing in the universe was not a weapon or a fleet or an army. It was a species that asked why. Years later, Ambassador Velith visited Earth again. The cities were different now. Taller, stranger, human and Ven technology mixed together in ways nobody had imagined possible. Yuna met him in the same room where they had first spoken. She was older now, her hair gray, her face lined with years. But her eyes were still sharp. "You transformed everything," Velith said. "One question. One small, stubborn species with one question." Yuna smiled. "We just did what humans do. We refused to accept the world as it was presented to us." Velith studied her with all 6 eyes. "The Ven have a word for your kind. It does not translate perfectly, but the closest meaning would be, those who break cages they were never shown." "I like that," Yuna admitted. "What do humans call themselves?" Yuna thought about Sujin, now the most famous captain in history. She thought about Minho, who had risked everything for information. She thought about Jesu, Taiho, Dongwu, and all the others who had asked questions when staying silent would have been easier. "We just call ourselves human," she said. "It means the same thing." Outside the window, the sun was setting over a city that had once been afraid of the stars. Now those stars held friends, allies, and endless possibilities. And somewhere in the deep black of space, other young species were watching. They had heard the story of Earth, the small blue planet that changed the galaxy with a single question. They were starting to ask questions of their own. Because that is what happens when you show people that cages can be broken. They start looking at their own walls differently. And once people start asking why, nothing stays the same forever. Not even the universe itself.